Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Behavior Code. I'm your host, Maria.
And I'm Gabriel. It's great to be with you all again.
Today, we're diving into a topic that I think everyone has some experience with. We're talking about the psychology of people who always seem to win arguments. You know the type.
Oh, absolutely. The ones who can turn any discussion their way, whether they're actually right or not. It's fascinating and maybe a little frustrating.
Exactly. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that. We'll explore what it really means to win an argument, look at the key psychological traits these people have, and even touch on some of the, let's call them, dark arts of persuasion.
Right. We'll get into the cognitive biases they exploit, the emotional control they maintain, and the specific tactics they use, from Socratic questioning to body language. This isn't just about being loud or stubborn, it's a science.
It really is. And maybe, just maybe, we can all learn a few things to be more effective communicators ourselves, or at least learn how to defend against these tactics. Ready to get into it, Gabriel?
I am ready. Let's decode this.
Okay, so let's start with the most basic question. When we say someone wins an argument, what are we actually talking about? Because I don't think it's as simple as one person being right and the other being wrong.
That's the core misconception, isn't it? People think winning is about having the best facts, but often it's about perception. Winning can mean convincing the other person, or, more commonly, convincing the audience, even if that audience is just yourself.
Convincing the audience. That's a really good point. It's about controlling the narrative. Like, did you successfully frame the debate? Did you make the other person look unreasonable or emotional? Sometimes the person who wins is simply the one who walks away feeling like they won.
And there's a huge difference between persuading someone and just shutting them down. A lot of people we think of as winners are actually just skilled at making the other person give up. It's a win by exhaustion.
Oh, I know that type. I remember in college, I had a roommate who was brilliant at this. We'd argue about something silly, like whose turn it was to buy milk, and by the end, he'd have me questioning the very nature of dairy farming and my own memory. I'd just give up, and he'd walk away with this little smirk. It's like they're playing a different game. While you're trying to have a good faith discussion, they're playing to win, and those are two very different objectives. It's the difference between playing chess and just knocking all the pieces off the board.
Right. The intellectual bulldozer. They overwhelm you with so many points, some valid, some not, that you can't possibly respond to all of them. So any point you don't refute is seen as a concession. It's a common tactic.
So, winning is really a mix of things: persuasion, narrative control, emotional dominance, and sometimes just sheer endurance.
Exactly. The misconception is that it's a logical, point-based game. The reality is that it's a deeply psychological one, and the people who are good at it understand that, whether they know it or not.
That's a perfect segue into our next segment. What are the actual psychological traits that set these people apart? I think the first and most obvious one has to be confidence, or at least the appearance of it. So true. It reminds me of those online arguments you see. The person who wins isn't the one with the most sources cited. It's the one who posts the most compelling meme or delivers the sharpest one-liner. They've captured the audience, all the other people reading the thread.
Without a doubt, confidence is incredibly persuasive. When someone speaks with conviction, without hesitation, we're psychologically wired to find them more credible. They sound like an authority, even if their facts are shaky.
And that ties into assertiveness, right? It's not just feeling confident, but actively projecting that confidence. It's stating your opinions as facts, not, I kind of think that maybe this is the case, but this is how it is. That directness can be really disarming.
It steamrolls uncertainty. But I think there's a deeper trait at play here, which is high emotional intelligence, or EQ. It sounds counterintuitive because we think of arguments as heated, but the best arguers are masters of their own emotions, and they're very good at reading yours.
Ah, okay, so they can sense when you're getting frustrated or defensive.
Precisely. They can read the subtle cues, your tone of voice, your body language, and they know exactly which buttons to push to escalate your emotional state while they remain perfectly calm. Once you're emotional, your logic goes out the window, and they've won.
That is incredibly calculating, and it requires a high degree of self awareness too, right? To manage your own emotional responses like that?
It does. They are very attuned to their own internal state. They know what triggers them, and they have strategies to stay grounded. This allows them to think more clearly under pressure.
I wonder how much of this ties into basic personality types. Like, you think of a classic Myers-Briggs ENTJ, the commander type. They're naturally assertive, logical, and driven to take charge. That seems like a personality primed for winning arguments.
It certainly can be. Or someone high in what psychologists call the dark triad traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. They often have the confidence, the lack of empathy, and the manipulative tendencies to excel at winning at all costs. But it's not limited to them.
Another trait I think is underrated in this context is creativity. A great arguer isn't just logical, they're creative. They can come up with novel analogies, reframe a problem in a completely unexpected way, or find a narrative that resonates emotionally. They are storytellers at heart. Right, you could have a very empathetic person who is just very skilled in debate. It's more about the skill set than the underlying personality, though personality can give you a head start.
It is. And a huge part of that skill set involves understanding and exploiting cognitive biases, which I think is where things get really interesting.
Okay, let's go there. Cognitive biases. These are the little glitches in our brain's operating system, and a skilled arguer knows exactly how to use them. The most classic one has to be confirmation bias.
hmm The tendency to favor information that confirms what we already believe.
Exactly. So, a good debater won't necessarily try to shatter your entire worldview with one brilliant argument. Instead, they'll find a small piece of common ground, something you already believe, and build their argument from there. They frame their position as a logical extension of your own belief.
It's a yes and technique. They agree with a core premise of yours and then pivot. You're absolutely right that the economy is a major concern, and that's precisely why my plan, which focuses on job growth, is the only logical solution. It makes you more receptive.
It's so subtle and so effective. Another one that I see all the time is the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Ah, yes, where people with low ability at a task overestimate their ability. The classic, a little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm.
Skilled arguers exploit this in two ways. First, they project immense confidence, which can make their opponents, who might actually know more and are thus more aware of the nuance and complexity, seem hesitant and less certain. Confidence is mistaken for competence.
And on the flip side, they can spot Dunning-Kruger in their opponent. If someone is arguing with absolute certainty about a complex topic they clearly don't understand, a skilled debater can give them just enough rope to hang themselves, asking simple, probing questions until their lack of knowledge becomes obvious to everyone.
That's a devastating technique. It's not just about knowing the biases, but about weaponizing them. They can also use the anchoring bias, where the first piece of information offered heavily influences the rest of the discussion.
Right. They'll throw out an extreme number or claim at the very beginning to anchor the conversation around it. Every other point is then judged in relation to that first anchor. It's all about framing.
It really is. And all of these tactics depend on one critical skill we touched on earlier: emotional regulation. If you can't control your own emotions, you can't effectively exploit anyone else's biases.
Yes, this might be the most important part, staying calm under pressure. The moment you get flustered, your voice gets higher, you start talking faster, you interrupt. You look like you're losing control and therefore losing the argument.
And your opponent knows it. The person who stays calm appears more rational, more credible, more in charge. So how do they do it? There are some very practical techniques involved.
Like what? We're not talking about just willing yourself to be calm.
No, not at all. It's physiological. A very simple but powerful technique is tactical breathing. A slow, 4-second inhale, hold for 4, exhale for 4. It slows the heart rate, combats the fight or flight response, and literally keeps your prefrontal cortex, the logical part of your brain, online.
And you can do that while the other person is talking, so it's not even noticeable.
Exactly. Another is psychological reframing. A skilled arguer doesn't see a personal attack as an attack. They reframe it in their mind as, this person is losing control, or this person is revealing their weakness. They depersonalize the conflict, turning it into a strategic game rather than a personal fight.
That's powerful. It's like emotional armor. Okay, you know what we have to do? Let's try a quick role play. Let's pick a silly topic. Pineapple on pizza. I'll be for it, you be against it. I'll get heated and you stay calm.
All right, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, so pineapple on pizza is obviously amazing. It provides a perfect sweet and savory balance that cuts through the grease. Only someone with an unrefined palate wouldn't get it.
I can understand why you might feel that way, Maria. A lot of people enjoy that contrast. For me, the issue comes down to texture and tradition. Pizza is a savory dish, and adding a wet, overly sweet fruit disrupts the integrity of the crust and the harmony of the other ingredients.
Disrupts the integrity? That's absurd. It's not a historical document, it's food. You're just a traditionalist who's afraid of innovation. It's delicious, and you can't prove it isn't.
It seems like you're very passionate about this. I'm not trying to prove your taste is wrong, I'm just explaining my perspective on culinary composition. You mentioned innovation. Can you help me understand what other culinary innovations you think compare to this one?
Okay, stop. You win. That was infuriatingly effective.
Let's deconstruct it.
You didn't get emotional at all. You validated my feeling. I can understand why you feel that way, which is disarming. And then you shifted from my personal attack, unrefined palate, to objective principles, texture, and tradition. You reframed it.
And at the end, I noticed you were getting frustrated and raising your voice, so I pointed it out gently. It seems you're very passionate, which puts a mirror up to your emotional state. Then I shifted the burden of proof back to you with a question.
That question at the end, that's a whole other category of tactics, rhetorical and conversational strategies. You used a version of Socratic questioning.
Yes, asking questions instead of making statements. It's less confrontational, and it forces the other person to examine their own position. If they don't have a good answer, their argument collapses on its own, and you never had to be the bad guy.
At the same time, skilled arguers are also masters of spotting logical fallacies in others. The straw man, the ad hominem attack, the false dichotomy. They can identify a fallacy in your argument and dismantle it, making your entire point seem weak.
Right. You called me a traditionalist. That's a mild ad hominem. I could have called you out on it, but that can seem aggressive. A better tactic, which I used, is to ignore the fallacy and pivot back to a calm, rational point.
What about other conversational tactics? Things like mirroring.
Mirroring is huge. Subtly adopting someone's body language or speech patterns builds subconscious rapport. It makes them feel like you're on their side even when you're disagreeing. Another one is the strategic pause.
Ooh, tell me about that.
Most people rush to fill silence because it's uncomfortable. A skilled arguer will make a powerful point and then just stop talking. They hold the silence. It adds weight to their words and often pressures the other person into talking, sometimes saying more than they intended just to fill the void.
You see that in political debates all the time. A candidate will finish a line and just stare calmly at their opponent while the silence hangs in the air. It's a power move.
It is. It's a nonverbal cue of dominance, which brings us perfectly to the social dynamics and power cues that underpin all of this.
Yes, because so much of an argument happens non-verbally. Body language is huge. Someone who wins often takes up more space. They have open postures, they're not fidgeting, they maintain steady eye contact.
And their vocal tone is key. They speak from their diaphragm, not their throat. Their voice is resonant, measured, and calm. They use inflection to emphasize key points, but they don't let their pitch rise with emotion. It's all about projecting vocal confidence.
So they're signaling status, basically. I am calm, I am in control, I am high status, therefore what I am saying is important and correct.
Exactly. It's status signaling. And they're not just projecting their own confidence, they're actively reading the social cues from their opponent. They're looking for signs of submission or anxiety.
Like what kind of cues?
Averting their gaze, crossing their arms, fidgeting, a strained vocal tone. The moment they spot those cues, they know their tactics are working and they might press their advantage. Conversely, if they see their opponent is remaining calm and confident, they might switch tactics.
It's a constant feedback loop of reading and projecting social cues. It sounds exhausting.
For many people who do it instinctively, it's not. It's just how they operate in the world. They are highly attuned to social power dynamics.
Let's look at some real-life case studies of this in action. I always think of courtroom lawyers. The best trial lawyers are masters of this. They don't just present facts, they tell a story. They control the emotional tone of the entire room.
Absolutely. During cross-examination, a great lawyer will use strategic pauses, pointed questions, and controlled body language to dismantle a witness's credibility, often without ever raising their voice. They make the witness get emotional while they remain the calm center of the storm. It's pure theater and psychology.
What about in more everyday settings, like in the workplace?
Oh, the boardroom is a classic example. Think of a tense meeting. The person who wins the argument about which direction to take the project isn't always the one with the best data. It's often the person who frames their proposal around the company's stated values, who stays calm when challenged, and who confidently answers questions without getting defensive.
And in personal relationships, this can get tricky.
It can be very toxic in relationships. The person who always wins might be using techniques like gaslighting, making their partner question their own reality, or just leveraging emotional intelligence to always come out on top. In a healthy relationship, the goal shouldn't be to win an argument, but to solve a problem together.
That's the key distinction, isn't it? The successful political debater, the lawyer, the executive, they're often in a zero-sum game. Their win is someone else's loss. But in a relationship, if one person wins the argument, often the relationship itself loses. To really see how these dynamics play out in the real world with the highest stakes imaginable, I want to do a deeper dive into a specific case study, the Space Shuttle Challenger disaster.
That is the perfect note to land on as we move toward our takeaways. The analysis is fascinating, but the application requires a lot of thought.
Okay, so let's summarize the key lessons here. To be a more effective arguer, or simply to understand those who are, you need to remember it's not just about facts. It's about psychology.
Right. First, master your own emotions. Practice techniques like deep breathing and reframing to stay calm under pressure. This is the foundation for everything else.
Second, project confidence through your body language and your voice. Speak clearly and calmly. Third, listen more than you talk. Understand your opponent's position and their emotional state. Use questions to guide the conversation.
And this brings us to the ethical consideration. It's crucial to distinguish between persuasion and manipulation. These strategies are powerful tools. You can use them to clarify your points and build consensus, or to dominate and belittle someone.
A great tip is to ask yourself, what is my goal here? Is it to find the best solution, or is it just to be right? If it's the latter, you might win the argument but damage the underlying relationship.
A perfect summary. The goal should be to use these skills to become a better communicator, not just a better combatant.
And that is all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Behavior Code. We hope you found this discussion as fascinating as we did.
Join us next time when we'll be exploring the psychology of first impressions and how to make yours count. Until then, stay curious.